Welcome to the Laws of Cooking on Shabbat. This will be part 15 of the class, continuing the topic of separating unwanted food from wanted food on Shabbat. Today we want to discuss case number 2. We started speaking about the concept of borer, selecting, or to separate. In the first case, on part 14, we discussed that if a person went ahead and by accident he did the malacha of borer, he did the forbidden labor of selecting on Shabbat. We gave the example. He went ahead and he separated unwanted food from wanted food, which is not allowed to be done. Or he went and he separated wanted food from unwanted food, but not to eat it immediately. He wanted to leave it for later on. We explained over there that it is correct to be stringent and not consume that food. However, Rav David Yosef Shlita did point out, if there is a great need, one is able to be lenient and eat that food on Shabbat. But as long as he goes back and he mixes the unwanted and the wanted food together. Today, in case number 2, we want to discuss what happens if a person went ahead and he separated. Okay, so before I do continue, over here we were speaking about where he did borer, where he did the forbidden labor of selecting, but it was done not to eat it immediately. Over here, we're going to speak about in case number 2, what happens if a person did the forbidden labor of selecting, but on condition to eat it immediately? Are the halachot going to be the same, or are we going to be more lenient in case number 2? So comes Rav David Yosef Shlita and he says, V'im berer poselet mitoch ochel. If a person went ahead and he separated or selected unwanted food from wanted food, al menat le'ochlo la'altan, on condition to eat it immediately. Even though he transgressed the prohibition of doing a forbidden labor on Shabbat, which is selecting, he did an avera. He desecrated Shabbat. Why? When did we allow you to use that condition of immediate use? That specifically if you are separating wanted food from unwanted food, but not the other way around. You can't use that condition when it comes to separating unwanted food from wanted food. So one more time. If a person went ahead and he separated unwanted food from wanted food on Shabbat, on condition that he's going to go ahead and he's going to eat the wanted food immediately. Even though he did the prohibition of selecting on Shabbat, he desecrated Shabbat. Nevertheless, he's allowed to eat that food on Shabbat even lechatchila. Rabotai, in case 1, in part 14 of the class, this case over here, one more time, he did the selecting to eat it later. Over here, he's doing the selecting to eat it immediately. That's why over here, when he did the selecting, not for immediate consumption, but for later, we tell him it is correct to be stringent and not consume that food. But over here, since he did the selecting, but also on condition to eat the food immediately, we're going to be much more lenient and we're going to tell him you're allowed to have that food on Shabbat, even lechatchila. However, he does say, it is good to go ahead and take the unwanted food and the wanted food, go ahead and mix them back up together. So it comes out over here, in case number 1, when it came to selecting, for a later time, we're going to tell you it's good to be stringent, not to eat that food on Shabbat. If there is a great need, you're allowed to be lenient and eat that food, but as long as you mix it. When it came to the second case of selecting, on condition to eat it immediately, even though you desecrated Shabbat, we're going to tell you you're allowed to go ahead and consume the food on Shabbat, even lechatchila. However, he does say it is good to go ahead and mix the unwanted food with the wanted food before consumption. Review. We're going to review both cases for case 1 and case number 2. If someone on Shabbat separated the bad part from the good part, or took the good part but not to eat it right away, he really did borer by mistake. The rule is he should not eat the food on Shabbat. Better to leave it for after Shabbat. Even if he mixes the food and the waste back together, it's still better not to eat it. But if there is a big need, the person is hungry, it's going to take away from his owning Shabbat. He's not going to enjoy Shabbat the same way. He can rely on the lenient opinion. He's able to go ahead and rely on the lenient opinion that allow you to go ahead and consume that food on Shabbat. However, we did see a condition, as long as he did mix it back. Second case, but if he separated the bad part in order to eat right away, it's still not the right way to do borer, but here the rule is easier. He's allowed to eat it even from the start, meaning lechatchila, initially you're allowed to go ahead and eat it. Yes, you did a sin, you desecrated Shabbat, but over here we're going to tell you, since you had that condition to eat it right away, we're going to tell you you're allowed to go ahead and eat that food. Silver of David Yosef said, it's a good idea for him to mix the food and the waste back together before eating, so it doesn't look like he did borer in the forbidden way. So this is the whole review. Now let's just go over how does borer work one more time. There are 3 conditions that must all be met. First condition is ochel mitoch posolet, food from waste, meaning wanted food from unwanted food. You must take the good edible part out from the bad, not the other way around. Second condition must be met, la'alter, for immediate use up to half an hour. As long as I'm going to start eating that food within half an hour, that's called immediate use. But listen to this carefully. But what happens if I went ahead and I took out the good food, the wanted food from the unwanted food to eat it an hour later? I desecrated Shabbat. You can only do it if you're going to eat it or use it right away, not to save it for later. And the third condition we saw biyad, meaning by hand or in the normal way of eating. It must be done by hand, fork or spoon, not with a special tool or machine made for separating. So Rabotai, before we do conclude, let's give a few examples. In part 14, we started speaking about a salad case, bakhsh, and a soup case. I'm going to ask you the halakha, see if you guys got it. If a person went ahead on Shabbat, he was brought a salad. He doesn't like onions. He separates the onions. Is he allowed to eat that food? The answer is depending. When he separated the onion, was he going to have that salad immediately or was he going to leave it for later? If the answer is going to leave it for later, we saw in case number 1, it's better not to eat that food unless there is a great need, and also if he mixes it back together with the onions. But if he tells me, no, Rabbi, I wanted to eat that salad immediately, even though he desecrated Shabbat, he did a sin, we're going to tell him, you're allowed to go ahead and eat that food on Shabbat, but it is good to mix the onion and the salad back together. Same thing Rabotai is going to apply by the case of the bakhsh and the case by the soup. Everything is really dependent on your machshava. Do you want to eat it now or do you want to eat it later? Even in the case where we spoke about if a person went ahead, let's say, and he took out the vegetables which is the wanted food, and he left the onions behind, but he wanted to eat this later, over there we're also going to tell you that he's not allowed to eat it, meaning it's better for him not to eat that food on Shabbat, leave it for after Shabbat. But if there's a great need, he's able to be lenient and eat it, but as long as he goes ahead and he mixes the food back together. Rabotai, this is the halakha for today. Have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam.